All right, here we go. Episode 2, Gurus Black and White Convos. I have another special guest with me today, my friend Amanda. She's a comedian, content creator, podcaster, all of the above. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for being on the show with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. So I want to kind of get your story from your origin and from where you are, where you took it today, so to speak. So my first question I got for you is, first and foremost, where you from?
I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky, and then I moved down to Tampa in the 5th grade. So I've been here most of my life, but I was born in Kentucky, and a lot of my family is still up there.
Oh, okay. So how was growing up in Louisville?
It was interesting. I feel like it was more. In some ways, it was more integrated. In some ways, it was more segregated up there because when I was born in the late 80s, and so all the black and white people were having babies together in Kentucky. Like, that was very, very popular up there. Right. And then when I moved down here, there was not as much mixed babies. Like, I was very surprised about that. But now they're obviously they're everywhere now. But yeah, so it was weird. It was a mix. So my mom's family's white, so I grew up in like the suburbs with them, and my dad's family lives like in the inner city in downtown Louisville. So it really was like both like two separate worlds up there.
Right. It's crazy. Like, now that I think about it, I know a lot of mixed biracial people, and their common story is like, one race isn't pleased. Like, it's like you're never good enough for each race. Is that the case with you?
The older that I get, the less I feel that way. But when I was growing up, definitely, I was around mostly my white family when I was growing up, and I didn't really feel like the odd one out in my family because so many of my cousins were mixed too. But it was weird, like, not looking like your mom. And like, I have jokes about that kind of stuff because it is weird. You look to your mom for like beauty standards, but when they look nothing like you, they don't have the same hair, nothing. Like, she doesn't even know what kind of lotion I need. Like, you know what I mean? Like, little things like that people don't think about.
That's what's up. Yeah. So, because I know, like, one of my best friends, he's biracial, and I know him. He always said, like, you know, he grew up with his black side of his family. Yeah. So the white side of his family really, they really don't care to get to know him and his sisters, and I think it's crazy because it's like, you know, I think biracial people are unique because you get the best of both cultures. Yeah. You mix it up in a nice gumbo.
You can bring like the best of both sides and bring it together in one person, but people are just stupid. I do think that it's, obviously most people don't stay together these days anyway, but I feel like if you do have biracial children of any race mix, it's really important to, if you're not going to be together, to have both parents very active because it can really mess kids up because you feel like you're the odd one out in the family.
Absolutely. I want to ask you, so how did you discover comedy?
I've always loved comedy. Like, comedy has always been something that has been there for me. Like, you know, whenever I was feeling down, I could put on a funny show or whatever. And it started, honestly, like, when I was a little kid. I always liked the really goofy cartoons and stuff. Then I discovered stand-up, and I was always a really, really big fan of that. And I always kind of thought that could be something that I could do, but I just never really put any energy, any real thought into it until a couple years ago when I actually started.
So, like exactly where did your passion of comedy come from? Because I know you just said that, you know, it was always a safe haven for you, so to speak. But, like, where did you get, like, your passion from? Like,
I think it's just always been in me. My family, like, especially both sides of my family, honestly, but, like, they're, like, growing up with them was, like, roast masters. Like, you had to, like, you had to be quick with it. You had, I honestly just came out of the gate, like, cracking jokes, and, like, me and my I have so many cousins, and we're all, like, within 10 years, there's, like, 12 or 13 of us on my mom's side. So we were just always cracking jokes, and if you weren't cracking back, then you were just, like, crying in the corner. So it was, like, I think it started as a defense mechanism, and then I just really loved it.
That's what's up. So, like, what comics that inspired you, like, when you first, like, early on, like, when it was all the idea?
The first comedian that I really remember seeing was when they did the original Kings of Comedy tour, when it was Bernie Mac and Cedric the Entertainer and Steve Harvey and D.L. Hughley.
D.L. was on there.
Yeah. I remember watching that. That's like my first real memory of stand-up, and I just thought it was... I didn't even know half the stuff they were talking about because I was way too young to be watching it. But I just remember watching that and being like, oh my God, these people are just talking shit, and there's thousands of people who are eating this shit up. Like, I'd never seen anything like that. So then, you know, when I was in high school, I graduated in 2005, so like there was those little half-hour comedy specials on Comedy Central were really big back in that day. Dave Chappelle had just gotten his show. So it was... all of those things were kind of happening like within a couple of years of each other, and I was like, this is amazing.
That's what's up. So, tell me about the first time you got on stage, and where was it?
Okay, the first time I ever did an open mic was in downtown St. Petersburg, Florida, at a spot called the Iberian Rooster. It's a Portuguese fusion restaurant upstairs, which I honestly don't even know what that means, but they have an event space downstairs in the basement. And they have a little stage, and they did before COVID. Every Tuesday they had an open mic there, and it was voted like best of the Bay a couple times and stuff. So I went to check it out 2 times, and then the third time I went, I actually signed up. I think I had 2.5 minutes of jokes, and they give you 5 minutes, so I didn't even fill up my whole time slot. I was so nervous. I really don't even remember. Like, I was so nervous. I know that 2 of my friends came out to watch. And it was over so fast, and I just remember, I was like, okay, this is my first time, that's all I have. And people clapped, and it was over.
So you end up having, so after that experience, you was like, wow, they're really messing with my jokes. I think I could do this. Yeah,
I had 2.5 minutes of jokes. I think there was like 3 jokes in that 2.5 minutes. And yeah, they were fucking with me, and I was like, oh, okay.
That's what's up, fucking with you. Yeah. So if you can, tell me the first joke you ever told. I know it's like they call it intellectual property, but I know if you don't mind telling me like the first joke you ever told, whether it be on stage or to your family testing it out.
Well, I did. That was the crazy thing. I didn't test out any of my jokes before I went to the open mic. I had just been writing jokes down. I want to say that the first joke I ever told, and I still tell this joke, like it's obviously changed so much, but it's pretty much just talking about having the best of both worlds, being black and white.
Right.
And saying that my dad, like I start the joke saying that back in the late 80s, my dad got swept up in an epidemic. I'm trying to like mislead, thinking that he was into crack, and I'm like, no, it was jungle fever. I think that was the first joke I ever told.
Jungle fever?
Yeah.
Tell me about the first time you bombed on stage. And where was it, if you can remember?
I don't know about the first time, but the time that sticks out the most in my head was I was on a showcase like 1.5 years ago in Tampa at like this converted strip club. And yeah, it was it was my first time. No, it wasn't my first time. I think it was my 3rd time in front of an all-black audience. And the first 2 times went great, so I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. It was not awesome.
No.
It was, I swear to God, someone let crickets into the club. It was like, no laughs. They were like, what is this?
Make me laugh.
They were there, and they were like, entertain me, damn it, and they were not having it.
It's crazy, because, like, I always hear that, like, a lot of comedians say, like, you know, our people we're very hard to entertain. Like, black people are very hard.
Sometimes, I guess it just depends on what they're expecting, but so many showcases, I feel like they think it's going to be like Showtime at the Apollo, where the energy is like on a 12 and they're just going crazy. And I kind of have a more reserved stage presence. Like, I'm not all over the place. It's more about the jokes than like moving around for me, which I'm trying to work on. But yeah, if your energy isn't top notch, they are not trying to hear it. And when things aren't going well, that 15 minutes feels like 3 hours. That's how I always know if I had a good or a bad set, if I like how fast the time feels like it went by. Because if all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, it's already time to get off, it was going pretty good because it was just flowing. But if I'm sitting there like, whew, you know, like I'm checking that clock, I know things are not going too well.
So tell me, how do you come up with your material? Like how do you just top of the dome? You write stuff down. Like how do you get your inspiration for your jokes?
It's a mix. It's a mix of both. Pretty much all of my jokes are things that have really happened to me or things that I observed in my real life. Like it could be something as simple as going to get a coffee and somebody acting crazy in line, and it'll trigger like, oh, I need to talk about these type of people, or something that my daughters will say to me, like a crazy conversation we'll have, or my upbringing, like about my parents and stuff. Right. It really, all of my jokes are like a true story or, a twist on a true thing that has happened or something that I saw. I do some observational humor, but I feel like the more personal your jokes are, first of all, the better they are because you're more passionate about telling them, and the harder it is for people to take your material because they didn't go through that exact same, if I'm talking about a joke about the weather, everyone can have a joke about the weather, but not everyone can have a joke about growing up with a white mom and a black dad and that kind of stuff. So I really try to focus more on that kind of stuff.
So it sounds like you get your material from your unique perspective of your life and who you are as a person.
Definitely.
Because I know there's a lot of joke bees out there, but we're gonna get to that a little bit. But it's just like when people write their stuff, just like if you're an author, you write a book, and it's like only you can tell your story.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like no idea is original, but at the same time, we're all unique people. So it's just like it's kind of
right.
Cool.
It's kind of like the difference, I guess, between writing a novel that like anybody could have come up with that idea than writing an autobiography where it's like no one has lived that life.
100, yeah. Amanda, describe your comedy to me. Like, what would it be if you were to put it in the category? And you on Netflix special, which I know you're gonna get there.
I think that my comedy is very goofy, off-color humor. A lot of like misdirection. Just my life in general is very awkward. Like really crazy things happen to me. Things that all the time people are like, "How? That's something that would never happen to anybody. It would happen to me." So it's a lot of those kind of like irreverent stories where it's just like, what the hell? But it's relatable enough to where people are like, okay, I could see that happening. Like,
do you ever want to get into acting? Because I can kind of see that from you. Like you have
really?
like an animated kind of.
You know what? I've honestly never thought about acting before ever, except during lockdown. I have been thinking about it just because stand-up isn't happening, and I'm like, okay, besides the podcast, what else can I do to like get out my creativity and do different things? I did my first like test read or whatever it's called for a sketch during lockdown. Right. But I am thinking about doing something like that, but I haven't really made any moves. But it's something that's just recently come into my head.
Yeah. Like I can, like for real, bro. Like I can see you doing like some improv shit, like where it's comedy, like in your field, but it's like some Mad TV or like SNL, some shit like that. Yes,
that is something that I feel like I would be interested in getting into is like sketch comedy because there's so many different types of comedy, and like that's one of the reasons why I started the podcast because there's things that I want to talk about that aren't necessarily stand-up material. So that's like where my podcast comes in, but there's also things that are like so goofy that it's not really for the podcast either. So I feel like that's maybe where like sketches would come in.
Tell me a little bit about, before I go back to the comedy, but because I know you create content too. Tell me a little bit about your podcast and how long have you been doing that?
So my podcast is called Keeping It Trill with Amanda Wilson. I just started it last October. I was podcasting with my cousin. I think we started in 2015. And we had a show called Mixed Feelings that was doing really good. We did a couple live shows. We went to LA and stuff. But she moved to Northern California because she's becoming a weed farmer. And she like doesn't have internet out there and stuff. So that show kind of died because it really was the two of us. It wasn't something that I could like take over and do by myself. So I didn't podcast for maybe like 6 months to a year. And then I was like, I really, really missed that connection with, just doing a weekly show and just getting my thoughts out there. I really missed that. So I started that show. And like I mentioned, Dave Chappelle's show, one of my favorite skits on his show was when Keeping It Real Goes Wrong. Right. So that's kind of where like the Keeping It Trill name came from. And it's just me and usually one or two other guests. And we just, I usually have topics, but it always goes off topic too, which those are the best conversations in my opinion. And we just keep it as real as we can and shoot the shit.
That's what's up. Cause I remember like when I first got on.
Yeah, you were on an episode.
Yeah, but when I first started creating content and I looked at hashtags Tampa Creative and I came across you, that's how I actually met.
Oh, really? Is that how you? Okay, yeah, I always wonder when like people find me online. I'm like, what brought you here?
Yeah. And I remember seeing, like you said, you were in your former show, and I remember DMing you. I was like, damn, like how? Because it seemed like y'all had y'all shit. Well, you did because the content was dope, and I thought it was a dope ass play on words because both of you guys are mixed, correct?
Yeah.
And then like I just thought it was
it's just like our opinions on stuff. So it was a good
It was a dope double entendre. And then I remember asking you, I was like, how did you get your content like to supreme elite level? And you were like, it's simple, just stay consistent. And you were like, they're coming out. And that's one of those jewels where it's just like, damn, like it's a simple like sentence, but it went a long way. And now I'm in a position where I can help people, and that's why I tell them like stay consistent.
It's so true. It is so. People told me that when I started out, and we would like watch the numbers, and we could see if we like didn't put out an episode one week, like the following week that episode wouldn't do as well because. The thing is, there's so much stuff to consume out there. Every day time you go on Netflix, there's a new show. Every time you go on iTunes, there's a new podcast. There's so much going on. So if you aren't consistent and people can count on your stuff coming out, they're going to find something else. And then they might forget to come back to you. So I just really think, I think honestly, that and having good content in the first place are the most important things. Because you could have the best show in the world, but if you only put out one episode a month, what's keeping those people on there when someone else is putting out just the same quality content more consistently than you are? So it's it's a game that you got to figure out.
So I know you do comedy as well, obviously, but what's your long-term goals as far as your podcast goes? Like, what do you want to do with that?
In an ideal world, I would just be making my living off doing stand-up comedy and podcasting. Those are the two things that I love the most. It doesn't feel like I'm working when I'm doing them. They're fun to me.
Right.
I leave those things feeling fulfilled. When I have a really, really good podcast episode, I cannot wait to upload that thing. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait till everyone hears that. Yeah, that feeling, it's like, it's hard work putting it in, but the reward makes it feel like it's not work. Like, you know, when people always say that when you do something you love, it's not work. And until you are doing something you love, that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Because I had an office job that I was like, yeah, it pays the bills, but I never loved it.
Right.
And then when I found something that I actually really cared about, I was like, oh, okay, I get what they're talking about.
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, it's a feeling that, like, really you can't experience. Like, you can't explain, not experience, but...
So jumping back into comedy, I want to ask you about like the industry and like the valleys and peaks. Since this is Black and White Convos, I want to ask you like, what's the best thing about the comedy field?
I think just being your own boss. There's nobody really telling you what to do, what content to put out. The audience tells you if it's working or not. You get that immediate feedback.
Right.
As soon as you try a joke on stage, because even if it's not totally polished, if there's something there, like you will get some kind of reaction. So you get that live back and forth with the audience, and you're held accountable. Like if you don't come with your A game, they're not going to give you like free laughs. So I like that part about it, and it's something that I really care about. So when I feel like I had a really good set, there's hardly any better feeling that I can think of is like walking off stage and being like, I just killed that.
Do you think that they should do comedy like the Apollo, like boo?
Where you get booed off?
You think that, or you think that would discourage people?
I think that there definitely is a place for rooms like that. It's not for everybody because a lot of comedians have like social anxiety and which is like a weird there's a lot of mental disorders happening in the stand-up comedy community.
Right.
So I feel like that model does not work for everybody, but there are places like I feel like once you get to a certain level that is good because it's so quick, and if you're not like if it's not hitting, you got to immediately turn directions. Like, you can't keep going with that same stuff if it's not hit. Like that room that I was talking about, it felt like that. It was like, I felt like they were going to get the hook and, like, pull me off stage. But I definitely think that there's room for rooms like that. And I think they're important because it polishes you up. It's like that final phase where it just, like, takes all the fat off.
Right. What's the most stressful thing about comedy?
To me, it's like because you're the act, you're the manager, you're the promoter, like you have to sell yourself all the time, which is not always easy for me. Like even sometimes posting stuff online, I feel like I'm like selling myself on Instagram sometimes, but it's like if I don't say, hey, I'm doing shows at these places, no one else is going to say it for me.
Exactly.
So so sometimes I struggle with like finding the line of like self-promotion and being like one of those people on Instagram that, but I think that's the hardest part is just you are the business. So you have to get out there and like really pound that pavement, get your name out there, get people to pay attention to you. It's all on you.
How long have you been doing comedy on a serious level?
Honestly, pretty much ever since I started, I haven't stopped. So I started March 8th, I think. March 8th or 7th of 2018. So I'm 2.5 years in. And before COVID happened, the longest break I had taken, I think, was 3 weeks off. Just like to reset, because it is and that was when I was working full time too. So it's a lot because comedy happens at night, late at night usually. Right. So it's like you're out till anywhere from 11 to 2 a.m. and then you have to go home, take a shower, and somehow make it to work at 8 a.m. the next morning. Right. So it was very grueling on me. So there was times where I'm like, I just need to stay my ass home for a couple weeks. And because I would get home from work at like 5, 6, make dinner, go to the comedy club, come home, go to bed. So it was like, it just felt like it was a revolving door and I never got a break. So as soon as I started, I pretty much just hit the ground running.
Tell me about janky promoters and have you ever had experience with them?
I've only had personal experience with one where there was money promised and money did not come. But I was still so new that honestly, I don't know if I deserve to get paid, but that's not the point. The principle is if you say you're paying somebody, you better pay them. Right. But that's only happened to me one time, luckily, and I haven't worked with that person again, and I wouldn't. And I have told other people about my experience. I'm like, if you're doing it for the experience, yes, go on this show. But if you're really expecting to get some money out of this, it's not for you. So I feel like it's good to be honest with people, because if you're honest, then people can make their own choice. If they know, hey, I'm not going to get paid out of this, but it's a show to, get my reps in, you can make that choice which one is for you. Right.
So, since this is Black and White Convos, is that promoter local or is he out?
Yeah, it's a local person. And people had warned me before I went there, oh, you're not going to get paid. But I had a personal conversation with this person and they're like, yeah, it's this, this, and this. So I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. And what everyone had warned me did end up happening. Yeah. So, and then I felt like it was my job to do that same and look out for other people. If they say, hey, what do you think about this show? I'm like, hey, if you want to tell some jokes, it's great. There's always a crowd. But if you're looking to like make some gas money home, it's probably not going to happen.
Well, honey, joke thieves. So
yeah,
it's joke thieves. It's people that take your intellectual property every field. Like I know my business in photography, I just had somebody try to steal my work and I was very upset about it.
It's very frustrating, especially when it's a passion project. You're like, this is my baby, and you're like trying to swoop in.
And the thing is with that, they took my work and it's like, bro, I'm a business. I don't just do this shit for a hobby. I'm a business. And they took it and put it on their page as if they took the fucking picture. I was so mad. But anyway, this is not about me, this is about you. Tell me about joke thieves and have somebody ever swagger jack you.
I have only had one instance where I felt like it was so close that I'm like, this is a little suspicious. But that person actually moved out of the scene, so I don't know what jokes they're telling now. But yeah, I had done a joke, and then I saw them a couple weeks later, and I was like, wait a minute, that's like the boy version of exactly what I say. Yeah. So it could have been a coincidence. I never called them out on it, and then they moved away. So I don't know I don't know if they actually stole my shit. But yeah, there's been people who word for word will take someone's joke. And especially in the day where everything is online and people put clips of their jokes online, it's going to get, like, you can't get away with it. I don't understand. It's like tax fraud. It's like, yeah, you might get away with it for a minute, but when it catches up with you, like, that's a stink you can't wash off. You do not want to be a joke thief.
I feel like if you're a business, if you're in the business, like for you, you're in comedy, I'm in photography, it's like somebody take your stuff. I think we should let the streets deal with them. They should get an ass whooping for that. We don't want to kill you or nothing like that. We just want to beat your ass.
But see, in comedy, if you get that reputation, it's like people don't want to work with you, and that is like, you know, a virtual ass beating, because it's like getting booked on shows is our whole bread and butter. 100. So if people don't want to work with you and the word gets out, then that you're just hurting yourself.
Right.
So like I haven't really had joke thieves personally, but talking about the podcast, when me and my cousin started Mixed Feelings, we had searched everywhere online the podcast where there was no one else with that name, and now if you go on iTunes and look up Mixed Feelings podcast, there's like 7 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like, why would you?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
man.
It was like, and we don't even do our show anymore, so it's whatever. But I'm like, really?
Be fucking original.
Yes. Why would you want? Why? And it's like, even if they were trying to like get on our coattails or something, why wouldn't you want people to come to you because they like what you're doing, not because you are something that you're not? Like,
right. Tell me about like the biggest difference between, you know, being a female in comedy opposed to just. Is it a male-driven industry? Like, what are your hardships?
Yes. So there has been like some drama, controversy, whatever, in the national scene and locally with, because I don't know if you know, there was a comedian named Chris D'Elia. Well, he is named Chris D'Elia, but he has like a couple Netflix specials. Yeah. He was on a Netflix show called You, and just recently, like maybe 2 months ago, it came out where he was like doing all this really creepy stuff, and he pretty much got whatever, you know, canceled, whatever you want to call it. I haven't seen him online since all that stuff came out. But comedy is a weird thing because the other comedians are kind of your coworkers, but also not. You're like all independent contractors. The only thing that brings you together is that you all tell jokes, and there is no HR department. Which is good and bad. Yeah. But it's usually late night in places that serve alcohol. So as you can imagine, if there's already somebody who has like a sketchy character, you add alcohol, you add 2 a.m., like you know, some bad, weird things can happen. Right. Luckily, nothing too bad has happened to me. But I know friends that things have happened to them, and it's like, it's that open secret. It's like, yeah, everybody knows so-and-so is a creep, but it's whatever. But I don't know. I feel like until all the men think it's as serious as the women think it's serious, it's not going to change. So we just pretty much look out for each other. We all have each other's back. Mm-hmm. But the worst thing that happened to me, and it wasn't even like that bad, it was just really off-putting. One time I was at a showcase, and I was still pretty new, and the host of the showcase, he did like because pretty much you're really just supposed to be like, and our next comedian, Amanda Wilson. Right. Maybe say one little thing. He was going on, and it was this whole thing like, okay, our next comedian, well, we know she's good to look at, but we don't know if she's funny. I guess she'll have to prove it to us. No, that's funny. Yeah, that's literally. And I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, and then I go up on stage and I'm like, I don't even know what to say. Like, thanks for that awkward ass introduction. Like,
so he said that. What did the crowd react? How did they react? They laughed and shit, or like?
I don't even remember. Honestly, I was so shocked. I don't even remember like what the crowd reaction was. But I went there with one of my female friends from here, who's a comedian, and a guy friend, and the three of us all looked at each other like, what? Yeah. So, I mean, they were on the same page I was, but I honestly don't know what everyone else was thinking about it. But I did call, like, after that, I messaged him online and I was like, hey, listen. Yeah. I've never had a bad interaction with you before, but I did not like what you said. And I'm like, I'm just telling you right now, maybe other women wouldn't tell you, don't do that. But I'm telling you right now, like, don't ever do that again, because it's awkward. It makes me feel like you're sexualizing me before I even get on the stage. Mm-hmm. And this isn't America's Next Top Model. It's a comedy show. I came here to tell jokes. Right. I don't care if they like what I look like or not. I'm here to be funny, not to be stared at. Correct. Like that. Correct. So you just set the tone for my whole set, it felt like. 100. And he apologized. And I mean, you know, it's whatever now. But I was like, we're not playing that game.
What's your best market to work out of? Like where are your favorite places to perform?
My favorite place to tell jokes is Orlando, because I feel like you get a better mix out there than here. Because here it definitely is, there's like black shows and white shows, it feels like, in Tampa and St. Pete. from my personal experience, like it's not very mixed. And out there you can go and the audience will be totally diverse, and it's more of a tourist area. So there's people not only like racially diverse, but people from all over the country might be at that comedy show because they're on vacation. Right. So I do like that because I feel like it helps you be more well-rounded, because I don't want to tell jokes that are only for people in Tampa. I want to tell jokes that people all over the country would find funny. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I haven't been out of Florida yet, but so far Orlando is my favorite.
Have you performed in South Florida?
No, I haven't. I was planning on going to the open mic at the Miami Improv down there. I think it's in like Coconut Grove or something. Yeah. But then COVID happened. That was, this was the year I sort of got everybody had more travel plans this year than they've ever had in their life, and the universe was like, "Oh, you thought?"
COVID is just.
Yeah, so I have not made it to South Florida for comedy, but I really, really hope to once things like open back up more.
Right. So do you once things are okay to perform, if they ever get back to that, God willing, do you want to venture out of state and just tackle the southern region, or you want to go all over?
I want to go all over. I think that I probably will start in the southeast just because it's so much easier to do.
Atlanta.
Yes, to me it's so much easier to do little weekend road trips with that kind of stuff. Anything within an 8-hour drive. So I could go to Atlanta, New Orleans, yeah. Maybe even somewhere in North Carolina.
Can you hire me to be your personal photographer?
You already got the job. You heard it here first. Yeah, I think that I need to start in the southeast and then work my way up from there. But I do have family in Texas. My family's in Kentucky. I know people in Tennessee. So I'm I feel like I can go to those places and have a little home base to stay at and, venture out to clubs. Right. Because I have a cousin in San Antonio and in Dallas. So those are two major markets in Texas that I could hit up. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think I'm going to start smaller and just branch out from there.
That's what's up. So tell me about headliner and opening act pay. If somebody's watching this video and they're an aspiring comedian, they say, "Man, I want to be a headliner. Or I want to." How do
I think that so many people look at comedy and they're like, "Oh, Kevin Hart just came out of nowhere and he's making $50 million to do a..." That is not what's happening at all. It's so you start off at open mics, you put in a lot of time at open mics, and local bookers look for people who are at the open mics, because a lot of open mic hosts also do showcases. So you would move from an open mic to a showcase, which may or may not be paid, but it's a booked thing, and you get on a flyer, which is when you're first starting out, the first time you get your little picture on a flyer, you're like,
"That's dope."
Yeah, hell yeah, you're like, "Oh, I'm doing something." So it goes from that, and then there's a hosting spot, guest spot, feature act, and headliner. Those are the 4 spots. And not every show has a guest spot, but every show has pretty much a host, a feature, and a headliner.
So the headliner is the top dog.
Yeah, the headliner is the one that you're going to see last. They're going to do the most time. They're supposed to be the most seasoned on the ticket. Yeah, okay. So that's the headliner usually is the draw. That's the biggest name on the ticket.
Oh, okay. So
the main event, if you will.
So give me an average time if you're opening act. How much time do you have? 5 minutes or something like that?
So usually shows that I've been on, it would be if you're hosting, you would get anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes depending on how many people are on the show. And then a guest set usually is a 5 to 10 minute set. Featuring is anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. And then headlining is usually 30 to an hour depending on the way the show is set up and how many people are on it.
Oh, okay.
Because I feel some people try to book too many acts on the same show, and if you give everybody too much time, the crowd gets burnt out. It's after an hour, I think an hour and a half is the maximum time a comedy show should be going on, because people start losing attention. It's hard to keep people, you know what I mean? Even in the movie theaters, it could be the blockbuster of the year and people are getting bored, looking at their phone and stuff. So to ask somebody to pay attention to live entertainment for that long in this day and age is an ask. So I feel an hour and a half is the sweet spot for a show.
So being the fact that you've been doing comedy for a couple of years, what advice would you tell a brand new fresh comic? And are you looking to be a comedy mentor?
I have had people reach out to me and ask me for advice. I don't know. I guess maybe I seem approachable. I don't know why they're asking me because I'm like, I'm still trying to figure this out too. And I always give a disclaimer. I'm like, I don't really know, but this is what I'm doing. And I, like, take it or leave it.
Right.
But I honestly just think it's like you have got to get out there. You have to have your face seen because there are so, like all content, there's so many comics, even in the local scene. There's probably like 200 local comedians just in Tampa and St. Pete. So and there's only so many shows. So if you're not constantly out there getting your name on stuff, being online, people are easily going to forget you because there's always someone coming up who's there and they want that spot. So you have to stay relevant. I think that's really important. Stay out there. Go to as many mics as you possibly can because nothing will prepare you like getting those reps in. You can tell jokes in your shower to yourself all day, but if you're not doing it in front of an audience, you're missing that element because it is a live performance. So if you don't have your stage presence down, your timing, all that kind of stuff, you're going to be stagnant. You have to get out there and really, really put the time in. It's not something that's just going to happen for anybody overnight. You could be the funniest person, but you have to hone that thing.
Gotta grind.
Yes, you really, really do.
So we getting ready to wrap it up.
Okay.
I got a few questions. I want to ask you, for those looking at this video, who is Amanda Wilson?
Amanda Wilson is a 33-year-old mom, divorced mom, who is just like finally broke out of what she thought she was supposed to do with her life, like being in corporate America, and I finally like found the courage or the stupidity, I haven't figured out which one yet, to like break out of that. And I'm just trying to like find my happy place in life and like what makes me happy so I can make my kids happy, and just trying to, you know, in the words of Lil Duval, live my best life out here. Like I'm just trying to make the most of it.
So when people watch this, what do you want them to learn from this and take away?
I just hope that they realize that like I am so regular, it's not even funny, and like I have made things happen for myself that I never ever thought I could, and it's really just about like finding what motivates you and running with that as fast and as far as you possibly can. And like I suffer really bad from social anxiety, and I've had depression issues and that kind of stuff in my life. And just being able to say like, okay, this girl is fucked up in her own way, but she's still like doing stuff, and she's still getting up every day and doing something and working towards a goal. Anybody can do that. You just have to find where your headspace is to be able to do that for yourself, and just not giving up on yourself, because the world will beat you down and everyone will try to put roadblocks up for you. So why make your life harder by doing that to yourself? You should be your own best friend, your best champion. Like you need to advocate for yourself because no one else is going to.
I like what you said, you know, the world beat you down, because Nipsey Hussle has a quote. He said, would you rather be at peace with yourself or at war with the world, or at war with the world and at peace with you? No. Would you rather be at peace with yourself and at war with the world, or be at peace with the world and at war with yourself?
Yeah, and it's true. You know, and so many people live their life to like make other people happy. Their parents, they try to fit whatever they think society wants them to be. That's never going to make you happy. It's not going to make you happy, and you just have to find. And it's so different for everybody. It could be working an office job. If that's your goal and you want to be like the baddest office bitch there is, do it. But you know what I mean? Just whatever it is that makes you feel fulfilled and like you're a whole person, go for it. Even if it's scary. Life is scary no matter what. Just go for it.
100. So plug your podcast. Plug if you have any up and coming shows coming up.
Okay. I haven't booked any shows since June just because things are so crazy. I am looking to start doing that probably maybe in like a month or so. I might start looking at doing shows, live stand-up again. But when I do that, all that stuff will be online. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. My handle is Amanda, AMANDUH_Wilson. On both of those, and my podcast is Keeping It Trill with Amanda Wilson. That's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you get a podcast.
All right, y'all. There you have it. Second episode of Guru's Black and White Convos. I want to thank my special guest Amanda for coming through, sitting down with me, and we out of here. The marathon continues.